trying to overturn everything, all of God's law, his order, and trying to destroy everything. And so there's, the Lord has to let him reveal himself, in a sense, reveal his plan, uncover his plan. And so that's what we're seeing. That's why we see so much thing, and why it seems that God isn't doing anything to fix it, and
yes,
why you all of a sudden realize that there's no human solution. There is no human solution. It's you're fighting against forces that there's only one person who can defeat those forces. That's God himself.
Well, so back to the messages themselves a little bit. Do they speak of future events? People would always know. Is he mostly speaking of future events or any?
I would say he's, and I forgot to mention in the previous question, you had asked, right. What does he talk about? I would say so there's part of the whole formation in our relationship with him.
Okay.
So there are a number of messages dealing with that, which is what I had spoken of. But then there is also what that formation is preparing us for, the events that he's preparing. And, he's always talking about participating in his plan of reconquering all the hearts of his children, that have been under the dominion of the enemy for years, and reconquering the church and restoring the church and restoring all of creation to what he originally intended, and that he has a plan for that, and we're part of that plan, and how to participate in that. He is also kind of more concretely, as part of that plan, he's given us a number of indications that there would be some kind of manifestation here at the mission.
Okay.
Exactly what that is, we don't know, but something that would just pour out so much grace on people's lives.
Well, when you speak of this formation and you say we, are you saying, is this for the community? Is it formation just for the community, or is this for everyone who would be listening to this? It's formation.
Everyone. I would say for everyone. I mean, for these past years, it's been mainly for the community and the staff, because those are the only ones that have been able to read some of the messages. But that formation is for everyone. It's a very...
So he, speaking of great events, I mean, well, it sounds like, and my experience of the message is, yes, that it's for us as individuals in each of our lives. The messages have been very helpful for me. But then it's also, he speaks of bringing together other little refuges or something to help him, to be his stewards, or how would you say that?
Right, I would say that he has always been preparing little groups all around the world. They can be prayer groups, other communities, other manifestations like different apparitions, different locutions, different messages of different sorts. And each of them has a purpose of forming that particular group of people around them, right? That's the purpose, to give them consolation and grace and formation and help. And that now that you can see the army of the enemy has grown so exponentially and has taken over so much, that now the Lord has to unite all of those smaller armies all around the world, all those places of grace into one. It's sort of like he's kept them hidden, like secret little pockets here and there, but now, at least he has told us that he's planning to unite all of those into one big army.
A great battle.
Right, for the battle, because it's coming.
Sister, in speaking of the great battle, can you give us a little more, how does that fit in? What is God's plan?
I'll just say what I think of it and some of what he has said. So one thing that to me has been very interesting is sort of getting a sense, much broader sense of history, in the sense that everything in salvation history is connected, everything from the very beginning to the very end, and it all leads, it all helps, it all prepares for today, now. And that everything that has lived, all the different experiences, it all leads to now. And just as God has his plan of salvation, the enemy has always had his plan of destruction and his plan of trying to subvert everything and destroy everything and all of that. And so he's constantly working behind the scenes to make that happen.
He being the enemy,
right,
the devil,
Satan. Yes. And so you see that, throughout history.
Okay.
But you see it's so much more evident, in a much more evident way in the last 2 centuries, in a much more overt, trying to overturn everything, all of God's law, his order, and trying to destroy everything. And so there's, the Lord has to let him reveal himself, in a sense, reveal his plan, uncover his plan. And so that's what we're seeing. That's why we see so much thing, and why it seems that God isn't doing anything to fix it, and why you all of a sudden realize that there's no human solution. There is no human solution. It's you're fighting against forces that there's only one person who can defeat those forces, and that's God himself. And until he acts, until he intervenes directly, there's, the enemy will still be doing his thing. And so we participate in that, in God's plan of discovering and then crushing the enemy. And that's his invitation through a lot of these messages is, help me. You have a part, your mission is to help in this. You have a part to play. It doesn't matter where you are, what your life is, what your situation is, you have a part to play.
So that's very hopeful to me to hear you say that God has a plan and he's going to act, because I think our world feels such a lack of hope because it seems to be spinning out of control and so much corruption. So the messages give a lot of hope.
And that's why it keeps saying, look at me, look at me. Look at me, look at your Father who loves you. Look at your God who is all powerful, almighty, and who will defeat the enemy. Look at me. Don't forget that I am God. That there is,
which we have.
Yes, right, yeah. We have, and that's.
Sister, does the concept of the illumination of conscience come up in the messages?
Quite often.
What does God say about that? Because that's something that various mystics have spoken of.
Yes,
I believe for
a number of years, and it is, from what he has said in these messages, is that it's a grace, a tremendous grace reserved for these last times, because we need it so much, because the world has been enveloped in so much confusion and that we can't see clearly anymore. And so we need God's direct light to our souls. And concretely, what other mystics have said, and other people who've been told of this grace, is that in an instant God would shine his light on each soul, and each soul would be able to see the state of the way God sees his soul. So it's like a mini judgment in life, it's sort of.
So it can sound frightening,
and
but it's a great mercy at the same time.
Imagine, just imagine yes, it will be very painful. And that's why he has also said that that's the moment when he's going to need his priests so much, that his priests need to be awake and ready to help all those people, because there would be so many people needing the sacrament of confession, and that yes, it will be very painful to see all the offenses against the person who loves us the most. But at the same time, in seeing our soul the way he sees it, it's not just the ugly things, it's not just our offenses. We're also seeing that how much he loves us, how much we are his children.
Yeah.
And I think for so many people who've lived despair and feeling totally abandoned and lost, and that'll be the one moment when they realize God is real, he's a father, and he loves me. And that what an incredible grace and mercy to be able to know that now, to be able to take advantage.
You just spoke a moment ago of God's priests. Do the messages have any special words for priests today, our priests and bishops?
That their role is so much more important than they can imagine. That the priesthood is so much more than just a social worker. That the priesthood is the participation in Jesus's offering. That's in this total offering to the Father. That's the priesthood. That's the essence. And so many priests don't realize that. They're asleep. And he says, the Lord says over and over, they're asleep, they're asleep, they're asleep, and therefore useless. Therefore I can't, they're useless to me.
How will he wake them up, or how do...
I guess shaking them. I'm not quite sure. I'd like to wake some of them up too.
Well, okay, but he does speak often of his priests as waking, but asleep. Well,
right. But how important they are. The priesthood is essential, and there's so much grace, and that they have so much power.
Okay.
But they don't use that. They don't realize that, and they don't. So much power against the enemy, to heal, to bring God's grace, but they don't
use it.